I only go back to when Francis comes into the church and he wants to get some things done. It's kind of incrementally done. He doesn't just come in and start throwing things out. It's like when you want to change the conversation, you can't just say what Nick is saying because you get flushed out of the conversation and nobody wants to talk about it. It was like me trying to talk to my father yesterday, trying to incrementally bring him over to my side, right? So even tonight on our YouTube show, the things we were talking about, Nick would hear something like that and he'd be like, these guys are not actually saying what I'm saying. No, because we're trying to get people who have never heard these ideas to start hearing these ideas and come around to see, look, you have to start having the conversation somewhere. So I do think it's still good that Dave Smith is out there because the conversation is completely different now than it was 5 years ago. And yeah, the parameters are set, but think about how different they're set from where they were a few years back.
Well, I think it's a slightly different question of whether it's something which is a positive, which I do think that somebody like, for example, Tucker Carlson. I mean, Tucker Carlson, his reach is huge. It's massive.
Yeah.
Like people don't realize how massive his reach actually is. Or even somebody like Donald Trump. We can say, in many ways, Donald Trump, like the image from 2016 where he was holding up the gay pride flag and it said like LGBT for Trump.
Yeah.
We can in many ways say that these are these individuals as individuals with their types of messages are positive. But for me personally, is this something which is like astroturfed, like he's claiming? Is this something which is controlled opposition? I don't know. I like Nick's bringing forward circumstantial evidence and such, but I can't entirely be sure of whether this is something which is really meant to pump the brakes on the Great Awakening, the great red pilling of young men especially.
No, but if you even start the conversation with, "Hey, let's not keep funding Israel's wars," that is a good thing. Like that is a
I
good
agree.
thing. Like I understand like his gripe that he's like he wants to say like Israel has no right to exist. Now I may agree with that, but that's not how you can have that conversation. Like you just can't. Like it's not. Nobody's going to hear that. So how about we start with, and it's not going to accomplish anything. Like you're not going to bring people around to your line of thinking. You're just going to get flushed out of the conversation and relegated to the corner, and everybody's going to write you off as a conspiracy theorist. And they do it. They're doing it with Father Maudsley. They do it with Nick. They do it. Anybody that even touches the Holocaust, that's it. You're out of the conversation.
But you do need both. You need the people that feed them just a little to get them interested. But when they're ready, you do need people. You know how I feel about Nick.
Yeah.
You need someone like that. You need someone like Father
That's not what I'm
Maudsley.
saying. I'm saying that conversation,
You need both out there, I think.
I think they're both integral to like true Catholic action.
Yeah.
Like for example, in some of the Catholic action that I do in North Dakota, like the actual politicians, the actual people who are public, like involved directly with the hands on power. Like it would be pretty foolish for those people to say a lot of the things that I, on the other hand, very publicly say, even in a more public environment of discussions between various different Republicans in the state. Like it's completely fine for me to say that thing because I already have the label of like, okay, I'm sort of ideological. I have an end in mind. Like I'm a purist. Like that's my role. I'm not running for public office. Like I'd never run for public office. But that's not my role. That's not my job in Catholic action. So yeah, you do need both. You need somebody always kind of who is the reactionary, pushing right, and then you need the trailblazers, and then you need the settlers.
Yeah,
the settlers are building the houses, and
whoa! What kind of settlers are we talking about here?
Well, not those kind of settlers. And the trailblazers are definitely not terrorists, but Israeli terrorists.
I think the Trailblazers have shifted the conversation, is what I'm saying. I'm not just talking about Nick. I'm talking about E. Michael Jones. He's like persona non grata in the Catholic world, but he's been talking about this for years, and it got people to start looking at the conversation differently. Now, you may not agree with everything he says. I definitely don't agree with his take on liturgy and things like that, but it's these people are important to the conversation because they they do shift the Overton window.
Mm.
I think that this awakening, and even the fact that these conversations are being had in public, like I see some kind of providence behind it, that it's like we would have never even been able to have these discussions a few years back. You would have just been shut out of the conversation completely. Even what we did on YouTube tonight would have been unheard of in 2020, 2019. You'd have lost your channel.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually like in the sort of sphere of Catholic influencers. It's kind of how I view somebody like Matt Fradd. I view Matt Fradd kind of like Tucker Carlson. Like he's a mainstream, voice who's, kind of like Father Mike Schmitz, kind of Bishop Barron, although not as much. But people that generally speaking are going to bring forward, they're going to say like the abortion is wrong. They're going to say the contraception is wrong. Homosexuality is wrong. But like I do have my issues. Like I'm a reactionary in the Catholic sphere in many ways, to where I think that in certain areas, I want to push right. Like I want to push hard right. And I think there's a role for me, and I do think there's a role for them as well.